New Orleans Saints 47, Panthers 10. Is the New Orleans Saints offense real deal under Klint Kubiak? Y'all knew this was coming. Y'all knew this was coming. Pause. Matt Moscana, after further review. Now, as you all know, I've been keeping the receipts. Man's got the receipts right here. I look at them every day, okay? The receipts. From everyone that was doubting Klint Kubiak, from everyone that was doubting the impact that switching from Pete Carmichael to Klint Kubiak would have. Those who do not know ball, pause. A lot of pauses in this one. Those who do not know ball, those who go to ESPN.com, filter by the stats page and thinks that's how you recap a football game. No hate, of course, but when you're looking at things on a whole different level like we are on this channel, and for 4 straight months, maybe even longer, for 4 straight months you sit here and say, you know, the Saints were dead last in play action and pre-snap motion, and well, San Francisco, they're like second in the NFL. Just that alone is a 25% jump in how much we'll see pre-snap motion and play action. That seems like a big deal. The people who were saying, you know, Pete Carmichael didn't call a single play last year with 2 running backs on the field at the same time, and San Francisco does that like 30% of the time. That seems like a really big deal. This might impact things. But what did we hear? What did we hear? Derek Carr sucks. Derek Carr can't win. Dennis Allen sucks. Dennis Allen can't win. The Falcons are going to win 12 games. The Falcons are going to run away with the division. The Saints are boring. Offensive line. We heard all the same stuff. Alvin Kamara is washed. So let's go ahead and hear. We're going to start matriculating it in. Word of the day. Not in, matriculating. We're going to start matriculating some New Orleans sports media and their reaction of how they saw things go in week 1. Saints-Panthers.
After the Saints walloped the Carolina Panthers 47-10. Is walloped a good enough adjective to describe what happened on Sunday in the Superdome? Shellacked, annihilated.
Oh, annihilated's better than walloped.
Manhandled, dismantled, embarrassed.
Is there a sidekick now? They hired a sidekick over there? Like who's that hombre? Who's that young hombre? That Conan O'Brien, who's his sidekick? Andy Richter? It's like a young Andy Richter in the studio.
All of the above.
Anything better than that?
I like annihilated. I think we go with that.
Annihilated. Humiliated.
I know what a good one would be. What about surprised? Because I would assume that Matthew is pretty surprised at what he saw. I would assume that the Andy Richter cosplayer behind the glass is pretty surprised at what they saw.
47-10. My goodness gracious. Listen, there is no secret where I stand on this team. Where I stand on this team, quite honestly, is where most everybody has stood on this team going.
Most everybody. But there was one. Off in the distance, ladies and gentlemen. There was one crusader. One brave soul. Way out there. Way out there. There was one who stood alone.
Going into the season. I picked, Vegas had this team over under 7.5. I went under. I liked him 6-11.
Show it. Because not only do I say it, I've said this a million times, and you can get it tattooed. If I say it, I mean it. If I mean it, I believe it. If I believe it, I bet it. And I got the receipts. Trust me, I got the receipts. I gave out Saints over 7.5 season win total a month ago. DraftKings was the sports book that I did my service with, Johnny Avello and the gang over at DraftKings. Big shout. And I did take the New Orleans Saints. The biggest bet of the season for me. Big bet. Real big bet. Real big bet. Okay. Over 7.5 wins. Why? Because if I say it, I believe it.
Looking at the schedule, the questions, all that sort of stuff. With the way they played in that opener, that is a pretty good indicator that they are looking to be way better than that. And if you are going to criticize, and Lord knows I have levied my fair share of criticism against the franchise, the front office, the head coach, the quarterback, all of it. And I would say it's justified.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh, so close. So close, Matt. I was about to say, by the way, new hat. I was about to say, I give him respect for coming out here and saying he was wrong. But then he had to say it was justified. It wasn't justified. It was actually based on absolutely nothing, which was most of what we had to sit here and listen to for 4 months across the board, not just Matt. He wasn't the only one, like he said, almost everybody except one brave soul. The problem was it wasn't justified. What we kept going against was that all of the complaints were fixed. Can't run the ball. Bad scheme. Bad play calling. Bad red zone offense. This, and this. They fixed it all. Or they attempted to, at least. You don't know if it's going to be fixed until you see it. But they attempted to remedy the problem. If the window is leaking and I fix the window and then you call me and say, I don't want to come watch the game at your house because I'm afraid that the window might leak, I would say, brother, my man, I just put the stuff on it. What do you mean? It's fixed. I know it sucked last time, but that's why I fixed it. Pass rush. Saints will have a pass rush. No one mentioned Chase Young, who just so happened to have 7 quarterback hurries. It really was simple to see that, and this is what I always preach, like you can't wait for the results. You can't wait for the results and then say, well, looks like this is better and this is better and this is better. You got to see it ahead of time. You got to look ahead of time. Saints, we did all this earlier this week in videos, but the Saints were number 1 in play action and pre-snap motion in week 1 of the NFL. Again, don't wait until Tuesday to be like, wow, looks like they're going to implement a lot of play action this year. Told you that 120 days ago, my boy.
If you're going to levy criticism when things are bad, you have got to be humble enough and honest enough to give praise when things are good.
There you go.
And it would be totally disingenuous of me to sit here today and try to tell you, well, the Panthers stink and all that sort of stuff. Let me see what you do against a good team. There's a component of that. But y'all, 47 I don't care that Carolina stinks. Yes, this is probably your most winnable game on the schedule. Can we all agree to that? Carolina was the worst team in the NFL. You get them week 1, new offense, at home, all that stuff.
Damn, I wonder who... Does anybody remember who in their game preview video, 2 of them on the same day, by the way? Does anybody remember who was saying that? Does anybody... Was it me?
Dennis Allen, Saints, is the first coach to be let go. Atlanta and Carolina are undoubtedly better teams. No question, the Falcons and the Panthers are much better teams.
You got to look at everything that points to the Saints. We have the advantage in every single way. There's not a single aspect of this game where the Panthers have the advantage.
They've got a new head coach, Dave Canales. He's the one that gave Baker Mayfield that great season last year for Baker.
I know a lot of people are high on Carolina. I think they expect Bryce Young to be better, but they're not factoring in just how bad he was. So
Bryce Young in the last month last year was not terrible. Completed 65% of his throws, mid-80 passer rating with a bad O-line and bad receivers.
this is arguably the easiest game on their schedule.
The Panthers win this game outright, take the points, 24-20.
This is a home run spot for the Saints. Easy. Great spot, great situation. I wouldn't even worry about it.
Undoubtedly better teams.
New coach for Carolina, everything. Your most winnable game. 47-10. The 47 points the New Orleans Saints scored are the most points they have ever scored in a Week 1 game in the history of the franchise.
Yeah.
The previous record was the 2009 team that, you'll have to refresh my memory, I think ended up pretty good.
Yeah, but what evidence was there that this core group of players or this roster could even put up 40 points? Like, what evidence was that leading into this game? Don't look at me like that, Matthew. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't they score 40 points in the last game? Last season? Against the Falcons? A divisional opponent? Well, maybe that was a one-off. Oh, wait. The same group of players dog-walked the Buccaneers? And dog-walked the Panthers? And dog-walked the Giants? Teams that we played this season? I guess there was a lot of evidence looking back.
47-10. Saints have now won 6 straight Week 1 games. 6 straight openers. That's the longest such streak in the NFL. And I get it. We could look back to 2021 against Green Bay. Remember that one? First game post Drew Brees era. By the way, that was a game that was moved because of a threat of a storm. They played that in Jacksonville. Do you remember that? Saints played their home opener in Jacksonville against Green Bay and beat the snot out of Aaron Rodgers 38-3.
Oh, yeah.
That team finished 9-8. I'll get more on how that finished here in a second.
I mean, there was all. Obviously, there's a lot to, that goes into that season. But
let's run through it. I want to start with Derek Carr.
Yep.
On this show, I, not so affectionately, refer to Derek Carr as the emperor of empty yards. Wasn't nothing empty about his yards on Sunday.
No, we covered this in a video this week. It was actually Carr played better than he should have played. Like Carr's numbers show that he actually overperformed. Well beyond what he should have done. So the idea of like if you look at Jaden Daniels, there was a lot of checkdowns going on. That shows in the advanced analytics. You look at Carr, the opposite. Okay? Even his incompletions were good throws. He was number 1 this week in passer grade. So, and then I'll tell you another one. I'm hearing a lot of this. I'm hearing a lot of, it shows you what Derek Carr can do in a clean pocket or when he's given protection. Someone double check me. But I'm pretty sure that all 3 of Derek Carr's touchdown passes were either A, out of the pocket, or B, he was under duress. I know for sure. You don't have to double check me. I already know. I know what's going on. The first one, he is getting hit, quite literally getting hit. The other 2, he's rolling out. One of them, he's basically getting a dome dog on the sidelines. That's the Foster Moreau one. The Juwan Johnson one, he has to roll out of the pocket. So that's the latest narrative that's coming out. That's an absolute red flag that whoever said that didn't watch the game. If you hear that, if you hear Derek Carr had great protection, that's why he lit it up. Absolute red flag. They were watching reruns of Bob's Burgers or something. They weren't watching the game.
Derek Carr, 19 of 23 for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. The picture of efficiency. Let me paint a clearer picture of what I mean when I say the emperor of empty yards. Put yourself on camera too, Paul. You were there standing up. I mean, it can't just be me. Last year, in 5 of the Saints' losses, Derek Carr threw for 353 yards, 301 yards, 304 yards, 226 yards, 319 yards. That was Derek Carr's passing total in losses.
Does anybody want to volunteer to answer what possibly could be different? Does anybody want to volunteer and give us a thesis on what possibly could have been different from last year and this year, and why it's a bit disingenuous to try and talk about last year's problems with Derek Carr going into this season? Because there's one glaring omission. Well, not even one, but there's multiple glaring omissions from last year. The key one is riding his unicycle down St. Charles. Last year is a totally different system, which is why all offseason when people were saying, well, this offense is boring, and we said, well, how could you possibly say that? It's a brand new offense. What do you mean it's boring? It's the offense that the Dolphins run. It's the offense that the Niners run. It's the offense that the Rams run. Those offenses are not boring. Well, the Saints are boring. What? What are you talking about? Again, the window. It's fixed.
The other losses, by the way, he threw for sub 200. He was around like 104, 109. Not good either way. I would rather the 19 of 23 for 200 yards and 3 tuds where you have a balanced attack and you're really efficient than Derek Carr throwing for 353 of garbage yards. That's why I call him the emperor of empty yards.
Again, if you just go that this is what I'm talking about with these the really shallow statistical categories. Because what he's saying is that 200 yards looks like a whatever game. Because if you don't see 300 plus, you expect he wouldn't really throwing the ball around. But that's why you have to look at the next gen analytics. You have to look at completion percentage, expected completion percentage, and you have to look at all of that. Air yards, we really just got to get away from the super shallow stats. We really do, because that's how you end up with people telling me, Colin, Cowherd, and Benkert, who believe that the Panthers had a top 5 defense.
Good that we got Williams standing too. Better learn, or it's off with your head. Yes, that's the Derek Carr I want to see. Please be that guy. I've got a 10-year sample that says he's more the other guy, but if he can be that guy 16 more times, this is going to be a playoff team. I don't know if he can be, but that was magnificent. Beautiful deep ball to Shaheed. My God, scrambling around, the pass to Foster Moreau in the back of the end zone. What a great catch by Foster. It was awesome. Everything about it.
Yeah.
Dime to Juwan Johnson, who made a great catch, toe tapping on the sideline to get a touchdown. Yes, awesome. All of it. Your defense forced 3 takeaways. Now, there were 2 awful throws by Bryce Young, who is really bad.
Yeah, he is ass. And as I said multiple times, he's ass on a stick. But a lot of people were telling me that Bryce Young's going to take a step forward this year. Why? No evidence to support that at all. What did we say here? Well, Bryce Young had the 3rd worst rookie season in NFL history, only 3rd behind Josh Rosen and David Carr. Why would you say he's going to take a step forward? Well, they upgraded the wide receivers. Brother, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and Xavier Legette ain't upgraded nothing. What are you talking about? Well, he has weapons around him now. Chuba Hubbard is the starting running back. Well, they got 3 new offensive linemen. Those offensive linemen aren't throwing the passes. The hell are you talking about? Dave Canales. Dave Canales, he's the new coach. Bryce Young had 1 possession in the preseason. You think Dave Canales is going to show up and show Bryce golden tablets or something, or sacred scripture, and then boom, Bryce just becomes good? It takes a while to develop, if he's even going to develop. And if Bryce Young takes a tremendous step forward and improves, he'll just be a bad quarterback.
I mean, can we just say now, It's really beneficial when your offensive line is better than everybody. You have all day to throw, and you've got NFL receivers everywhere who are better than everybody. Like, it's easy to be an Alabama quarterback. Look how bad Mac Jones and Bryce Young are in the NFL. Like, can we just all agree to that now? Anyway.
Mac Jones is better than Bryce Young.
But look, Will Harris, Jordan Howden come up with interceptions. Tyron still doing Tyron things. Forced fumble, recovered the fumble. D forces 3 takeaways. Awesome. Opportunistic, just like they were a year ago. Plus 11 in the NFL in turnover margin. They were second. They were plus 11, second in the NFL in turnover margin.
Oh, did you see where he said just like a year ago? And how a lot of the times whenever people were predicting the Saints to win 3 games or 4 games or 5 games or 6 games, they omitted how difficult it is to be that bad with a top 10 defense. You don't really see ever a 3-win team have a top 10 defense, a 4-win team, a 5-win team, a 6-win team, a 7-win team have a top 10 defense. When you do see that, it's like with the Jets last year where the best player on the team gets hurt and Aaron Rodgers turns into Zach Wilson. But even with that defense, it's still a 7 and 10 win team. So whenever we saw the team last year go 9 and 8, return the same players, but get better at all the weak positions, that's where I was a bit befuddled. That a lot of people had us going from 9 and 8, and then we seemingly upgraded all kind of stuff, and they dropped us from 9 and 8 to 3 and 3 wins. They dropped us to 5 wins. They dropped us to 6 wins. What? How, why? How? What do you mean?
A year ago, picked right up where they left off. Special teams, Blake Grupe had to fight for his job. Goes 4 for 4, including 2 for 2 from 50 plus. And how about Juwan Johnson blocking a punt?
Blocked a punt.
It doesn't necessarily go down for as a block because the punt went forward for 11 yards. But 2 plays after that, you're in the end zone on Jamal Williams' 14-yard touchdown run. All that stuff was great. But, y'all, the running game was the story.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, I know I'm asking y'all for a lot, but does anybody want to volunteer a 4 to 5 page thesis on what could be the difference in last year's running game and this year's running game? Because it seems like it's the same players. Like if I'm looking at the board, it's a lot of the same players and a lot of the same linemen. Like, what do y'all think is different? What? Who could have possibly predicted that the running game would be maybe better this year? If we still have, it's still Jamal Williams, that's still Eric McCoy, and that's still, well, that's Trevor Penning. Wait a minute, Alvin Kamara is old. If Alvin Kamara is old, and Eric McCoy and Trevor Penning, it must be that the zone run scheme that worked in San Francisco and works in Miami and works in Los Angeles, maybe it's the fact that we're doing that now. Maybe that's what changed.
Not Derek Carr.
But again, who could have seen that coming?
Carr, not the defense, not the special teams, not Dennis Allen, not the crowd, not any of that stuff. The running game was the story. The New Orleans Saints a year ago were 27th in the NFL in rush offense.
Yep.
Only 5 teams were worse at running the football than the Saints a season ago.
Yep.
They went out there against the defense, by the way, that is Derek Brown on its interior and ran for 180 yards. This is the promise. This was the promise of the Klint Kubiak offense. It's 1 week. It's 1 week against a bad team. But Alvin Kamara, who had been declining in production the last 3 years, looked like the Alvin Kamara of year 1, 2, 3. Amazing what happens when you get him on the edge in space with lead blockers in a zone scheme, an outside zone, as opposed to lining up and running right into a defense.
Yeah, it is.
It looked awesome. 37 attempts, 180 yards, averaged 4.9 per carry. You saw the wides of the outside zone. You saw motion, which our guy Ross Jackson has written about over at LouisianaSports.net. You saw Taysom Hill both.
I mean, Matt, you could have at least said that James Skrmetta has talked about for literally every day for the last 4 months.
Tailback and fullback, all of that was the fulfillment of a promise of what we had talked about in the offseason with Klint Kubiak coming in. You just didn't know if it would actually work. It worked, emphatically. And I want to point this out. I want to give a hat tip to John Stinchcomb, former Saint offensive lineman, Super Bowl champion at right tackle, Pro Bowl offensive tackle at right tackle. John was here, what was that, a couple of weeks ago? Maybe 2 weeks ago or so?
August 26th.
August 26th. When I don't math very well. So it's a few weeks. John Stinchcomb was here, and we were talking about at the time if Trevor Penning was the guy at right tackle, like if there would be a better option. And the point Stinchcomb made was that Kubiak's offense, while Penning has struggled, there's no denying that. But his point was that this offense was going to help mask some of your deficiencies, not only with Penning, but with the entire offensive line. This was John Stinchcomb, August 26th, on this show.
Yeah, it happens. We're going to skip the Stinchcomb part because, I mean, if you've been watching this channel, you know all this stuff. Again, the San Francisco 49ers do not have a great offensive line. Like last year, I think they graded out like 21st. That's what this offense does. Same thing with Miami. You think Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane are just so happen to be like A-plus backs? Look at their career. Look at Raheem Mostert's career. They do contribute to some of the success, but these systems are built to do exactly what we've been saying. You don't have to have A-plus left tackle, A-plus guard, A-plus center, A-plus guard, A-plus right tackle. It's not 1996. It is not big man lineup versus big man win. It's not that anymore. Scheme, the same as Dallas. And we're going to be talking about Dallas a lot throughout the week. The matchup is not Talise Fuaga or Trevor Penning versus Micah Parsons. They're not going to be asked to do that. It's going to be the system versus Micah Parsons. How can Klint Kubiak and the scheme and the system neutralize him? 20 years ago, it was like, okay, well, it's up to my left tackle to one-on-one handle whatever end. That was it. That was the extent of it. Now it's different. I've seen in the past, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, I've seen in the past where teams elected to not block Aaron Donald. And that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But they figured out that if we can not block him, let him run free, and we just consistently scheme and play around that to where it's either a screen or it's either away from him or it's so fast that he can't do anything. One, it neutralizes Donald. Two, it frees up a blocker who would be just getting dog walked by Donald. It frees up a blocker or a player to do something else. That's the new line of thinking. And that was years ago. That wasn't even recently. That was years ago they were doing that. Where it's like, well, we can't block him, so let's just let him run free. Imagine telling that to somebody in 1995. It would blow their mind, right? So that is why this system is dominating the NFL right now, is because it's not all about having a Devontae Adams out wide. It's not all about having. It is nice to have a Christian McCaffrey, but it's not all about having that player. It can be a Kyron Williams, or it can be a Raheem Mostert, or it can be a Devon Achane, or it can be Jeff Mason. Did y'all watch the game last night? 49ers and Jets. Christian McCaffrey goes down. What happens? Next man up, 180 yards against the Jets defense. You think that's just him being the best running back in the NFL? No. That is the system. That is the scheme.
I mean, you want to talk about bull freaking eye. Bull's freaking eye is probably how I have to say it instead of bull's eye. I mean, he nailed it. Turns out John Stinchcomb knows a lot about football and playing offensive line. Yes, Trevor Penning had a holding penalty, but what
a bad holding penalty was not, it should not have been called. Penning was good. Penning was fine. Penning was not bad at all in week one.
Dramatic difference from the opener a year ago when Arden Key made Trevor Penning look like a peewee football player. Ain't nothing to complain about today. Your first offense scored on all 9 drives. Your defense was opportunistic. It was great. Bryce Young stinks. The Panthers are the worst team in the NFL. They're still pros. And you hung 47 on them and just waxed them. What a way to start the season. I get it. Look, that's the most emphatic opener you've had since the Green Bay opener in 2021 when you won 38-3. That season finished 9-8. You didn't make the playoffs. I'm not dramatically changing any projection for the season, but how could you not be optimistic after watching what you saw? The real challenge comes Sunday in Dallas. By the way, Dallas just went on the road against Cleveland, which was the number one defense in the NFL a year ago. The Cleveland Browns were the number one defense in the NFL a year ago, and Dallas picked them apart on their home field. So your challenge ratchets up dramatically on Sunday, and it will be a much better gauge of what this team can possibly be. But I'll be damned if I'm not excited to see it. Couldn't have said that 36 hours ago. What a win for the Saints, 47-10 over the Carolina Panthers. Hey,
there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, take a victory lap. If you're one of the many subscribers of this channel who have supported and watched this journey this offseason, take a victory lap. Enjoy it. No reason we can't enjoy it. We drew a line in the sand. We stood on our analysis. We stood on our word, believed in what we saw. We do the work. It's the reason why. It's the reason why. I said it from day one. It's the reason why we are the fastest growing. It's the reason why we are damn close to the number one channel in this market. I'm telling you. Listen, there's a lot of good options out there. You want the best coverage. You want the best analysis. You want to know what's really going on. You're in the right spot. I'll tell you that. And I thank each and every one of you for making this so damn fun. I thank each and every one of you for making this so gratifying, so validating to put this content out for y'all, to see the enjoyment, to see the engagement, to see the numbers. It's been crazy. It's been humbling, and I just want you to know I really, really do appreciate it. It is beyond what I thought it would be, and we're not even close to the tippy top. We ain't stopping until we're number one. We don't have that much further to go, I'll tell you that. So thank you very much for watching the content. Thank you very much for all the comments. I try and respond to as many comments as I can. Thank you for all the Twitter messages, the mentions, all of that. Again, guys, it really is humbling, and I really do appreciate it. And we are in for a wild ride this season. 100%. We are in for a wild ride this season. Thank you very much for watching. Get on down in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.